And welcome to my model railway layout. Tonight we're looking at a new locomotive just arrived today in the post, and it's what they call a Dean single. I'll explain to you why it's called a Dean single in just a moment, quite shortly. Now, it's a very special one. It's made by Hornby, and it's one of only 2,000 locomotives. There's Simon Kohler, one of the directors of Hornby there. I think he's still working at Hornby now, I believe. And it's the first of the class 3031, was introduced in 1894, and Lorna Doone entering service in February 1895. Built specifically for express passenger work. They saw service up until 1915, but this particular example, number 3047 Lorna Doone, was withdrawn in November of 1912. Now, there was a reason for that. It's not that the locomotives themselves weren't any good. They were very good for the time they were made. I mean, this is somewhere a period of time when Dean was the chief mechanical engineer of the Great Western Railway. Late Victorian times, obviously, and there were going to be some great changes in the construction of locomotives and the demands put upon them. Now, these were built especially for express passenger work. Okay, and they ran all of the prestige trains, like the Flying Dutchman. This particular example is called Lorna Doone, as you can see. Lorna Doone. It's a book written in Victorian times, all about it's a story that took place on Exmoor. It's a fiction, but it's using Exmoor locations and events for the story, and you can look Lorna Doone up. But it's when you go into the West Country, and certainly near Exmoor, you'll start to see lots of signs saying you are now entering Lorna Doone country. Lorna Doone, the character, just to give you a bit of background, fictional character, kidnapped by a group of outlaws called the Doones, and eventually she fell in love with a farmer and was basically released, and all ended well. And she married the farmer. But anyway, you can look up the actual story of Lorna Doone there. But the actual book Lorna Doone made Exmoor very popular. In Victorian times, people were looking for adventure and romance, and certainly these locomotives would have been would have helped provide that for the public. You can perhaps imagine this these people getting off at Bridgewater Station or maybe Exeter Station, and going up onto Exmoor to look at the locations where the Lorna Doone story was said to have taken place in the book. Now, it's a Dean single wheeler, and I'll show you the picture of it just to explain why it was called a single wheeler. It's not because it only got one wheel, it's because it got a single pair of driving wheels. So it's a 4-2 locomotive. So it's got 4 leading wheels, as you can see, the 2 driving wheels in the middle, and 1 pair of trailing wheels at the back, 2 trailing wheels. And that was how a lot of locomotives were built. In fact, most express passenger locomotives followed this format in Victorian times. And it was only really sort of later, certainly on the Great Western Railway, that coupled engines with 4 and 6 coupled wheels became more prevalent. But these singles were meant for the high speed. The actual large centre driving wheels were thought to be more ideal for speed. You can see it's called Lorna Doone there. Certified limited edition of 2,000 pieces. Okay, and again we'll take a look. Our certificates of authentication from Hornby. Mine is 1725. So they were getting well into the series. And like I say, I consider myself very fortunate to have got hold of this. And it also came with a little sleeve, which is there for when you fit a DCC decoder. This locomotive is actually designed to take a DCC decoder, but obviously my layout, as you probably saw from before, is DC traditional way of powering locomotives on the layout. And it came with the instructions, so the whole package which I obtained was complete. Dean Single 442, so it gives you all the locomotive maintenance and operating instructions. Tells you where to oil it and stuff. We'll have a look now. There we are. So there's your points where you would oil it, marked in red. How to take the body off. There's a screw at the back of the locomotive. Sorry, I forgot to switch off notifications again. I'll switch them off now. There we go. Do not disturb. That's better. Okay, so that's it. Now we won't be disturbed by any more notifications. And it tells you how to remove the body so you can reach things like the motor. I don't know how long this one was actually been stood in a box for when it was last run. So what I did was I actually put a little drop of oil on the actual motor bearings just to make sure everything turns over nice and easily. And that's what we had with the locomotive. And we'll take a look at her in a moment. Running. Now, what becomes apparent with these little models is probably why the Dean singles were replaced in 1950 by 1915, is that trains were getting heavier and heavier and heavier. As it must have been as rail transportation was becoming more and more popular, rail travel, and also the coaches were probably more solidly built, and there were probably more coaches on each train. And of course, with only one pair of driving wheels, there's only two driving wheels to actually grip the rails. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look and watch this one leave the station in just a moment. So I'm going to turn this now. In fact, you can see what I do with the controller. You can see here now, I'm running on track 2. Track 1 is not in use at the moment. It's to the left to make it go backwards. And then we'll make sure that the points are set. Sorry, just grab the controller. And just make sure the points are set. And they are. So we can go out to the station. And you'll see a nice steady departure out from the station. Now we need to turn this very, very slowly and allow it to gather up speed rather slowly, because there's only one pair of driving wheels. They've got no traction tyres on them. The model locomotives are traction tyres. They didn't put traction tyres on real ones. Obviously real ones just ran on the metal rims, but there we are. We'll just stop her at the signal now, and then we'll take a look at her actually running. So now we need to turn the points for the main line. There we go. And I know the other point is set for the main line, so we're ready to depart with our happy holiday makers or travellers. Maybe they're going to Exmoor, or some of them, in search of Lorna Doone. As you can see, it pulls away quite nicely. And there we are, it's gathering speed quite nicely too. When I first had this, the poor little wheels were slipping around like crazy on the track, but I've actually cleaned them now with a cotton bud in contact cleaner. You see she runs a nice little runner, pulling our usual train of 3 coaches, Great Western coaches. I'm going to be buying the authentic coaches for this. There are different sort of coach that should be with these. We can kind of imagine they weren't withdrawn in 1915, and maybe they were used a little bit longer. Now, as we say, these were designed and built in the late 1900s, and they would have put all of the great prestige express trains. Now we'll put her over in our usual spot, and we'll take a nice close look at her. Here we are. We'll see if we can take a look now. There we are. So it looks, that's what it looks like from the front profile. You can see that on this particular model, a lot of things have actually been sort of highlighted in silver, like the handrail and the levers on the smoke box, the front there you can see, in the hinges. The buffer beam's been painted with the number 3047. The buffers themselves are made of metal, which is quite a nice touch, but they're not sprung. I mean, many people say a prestige locomotive, like in the modern form at least, should have sprung buffers, but I'm not really fussed about sprung buffers, to be truthful. Not for me at least anyway. I'm happy either way. Now you can see it's got the usual copper chimney and the brass safety valve cover, and also this kind of steam dome in the middle there. And then you've got the 4 leading wheels, 2 driving wheels and 2 trailing wheels, a 422. And these were about 8 feet in diameter, these wheels, so they're much larger than what you would see on sort of later locomotives like Castles and Kings. I think the King had 6 feet driving wheels. These have got 8 foot driving wheels. They're not the largest wheels ever seen on a single wheeler. The largest wheels certainly seen on a Great Western engine were probably by the designs of James Pearson, earlier, who preceded Dean, and he was chief mechanical engineer of the Bristol and Exeter Railway, and his locomotives had 9 foot driving wheels, but these were 8 feet. Now we'll pull around a little bit more. I say you need to pull away very, very slowly on this, otherwise the wheels will start to slip. I don't know if you can see down inside there. Yes, you can. It's come out with a detailed cab. All of the dials are picked out. All of the brasswork's picked out. But we'll see if we can bring the lamp a little bit closer to us, or to the cab, and see if we can see it in more detail. Let's have a look. My lighting is a little bit limited here, as you can probably tell. Oops, there goes a... Sorry. Oh, there we go. Now we can see the detail of the cab lock, all picked out. Details in red. The water glass gauge, the steam pressure gauge. There'll probably be a vacuum gauge in there. All picked out. All the details of the driver's cab. Now, what you heard fall over then, you may as well see what it was this. It's a device used for putting locomotives in rolling stock onto the track. It's like a railing ramp. If we leave it just there, we can see what it's all about in a minute. I'll explain to you how that works. Now, we're going to give her another run. We'll just turn the lamp around a little bit, get some more light on. There we are. You see all the paperwork. This locomotive came with all the paperwork, everything that should come with it. And I think it was an absolute bargain. Really, really happy with it. I fancied a Dean single for quite some time. You can hear the wheel slipping there. Hear the wheel slipping? Right, so now this is what can happen with these because there's not much weight to the locomotive and there's only 2 driving wheels. We're actually stuck on the a curve here. So the poor old wheels going round and not propelling the locomotive. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a little bit of help. Coach become derailed, that's why. Aha. Coach was derailed, that's all it was. Okay, we'll see if we can pull away now. Oh, that's more like it. It was one of the coaches been derailed when the railer fell down. It was actually it was in my lamp there in the base. You see the scissors there and everything else. That's where my tools are stored. And this is a railer. We'll explain to you what this is all about. Basically, you put this onto the track, and you can roll the locomotive down or a carriage onto the track, and all the wheels are actually placed properly on the track. So that's what that was. That's what fell down. So when you see my videos, you will see them warts and all, mistakes and all. I don't see there's any point in editing them out. And then if you should have a mishap on your layout, you'll feel a little bit better. You can hear it going round lovely. And I actually watched a video. Me and my father watched a video I bought off a well-known website, and a lot of the actual series that came out in 1976 of the story of Lorna Doone, and that was quite entertaining. We watched it over 2 nights, and that gave me quite a lot of background as to what the Lorna Doone legend was all about. And of course that's what this the name was given to this locomotive. Now, I can imagine somebody, say for example, starting off from Paddington Station, going to the West Country. They may have even read Lorna Doone, and now they're off to look to see all the locations in Exmoor, wild Exmoor, and then they arrive at Paddington Station, and there it is. Their locomotive that's going to be pulling them is going to be called Lorna. It's actually called Lorna Doone. So I should imagine that should have been quite a delight for some of the railway travellers. And as you can see, it's a very, very good runner. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bring her into the station in just a moment, because you'll be able to see what she's like. Now this ran out of the box when I got this here. Obviously it's a second-hand locomotive. It ran straight out of the box, no problem at all. The motor was making a kind of a sort of a high-pitched whining noise, which has now stopped. So you can just hear the engine actually. You can hear it making the usual noise that a lot of the Hornby motors did of this period. So it's just making the usual sort of buzzing noise. Now a very, very smooth runner. And in fact, we were sort of, when these were designed, I mean, they were designed by William Dean, the chief mechanical engineer of the Great Western Railway, but a successor, George Jackson Churchward, had a lot to do with a lot of the modifications to these engines as they were in service. But then when George Jackson Churchward became the chief mechanical engineer of the Great Western Railway, as I said, the demands on locomotives were getting greater and greater and greater. The train weights were getting more heavier. Trains were getting longer. Carriages probably more substantially built, and that's when Churchward began to design the Saint and the Star class locomotives, which had 6 coupled wheels rather than just the 2. But really, I mean, these are from a period of absolute excellence and elegance of the Great Western Railway. I think some of the earlier ones would have been still built to the broad gauge. What a lot of people don't realise is that when Brunel built the Great Western Railway, it was not built to the usual standard gauge of about 5 feet. It was built to a 7 feet gauge, a broader gauge. Brunel was of the opinion that a wider gauge was better for more stability, but obviously eventually the 2 gauges clashed, and it was decided it was far easier to stick with the narrower gauge. I don't suppose you could have expected every other railway to widen all their bridges and tunnels to accommodate the broad gauge, so everything went to standard gauge. And these locomotives started off, I think, in the broad gauge era, and then carried on as standard gauge engines. They were converted to the rails being closer together. But this is handling 3 coaches beautifully. I'm quite enjoying this, as always. Now, we've been running into 22 minutes. I always get carried away with my locomotive videos. Sorry about 1 or 2 of the clangers during the making of this video, like me dropping this onto the track and derailing the carriage. This is all the perils of if you're going to be filming this live. I could take this to the computer and edit it. I do have the software, but I think it's nice for you to see the clangers that are happening when I'm running this railway. And I have had some, I know it's only a 6 foot by 4 foot layout with only a small number of points and on it and sidings. But there have been some spectacular clangers. The most spectacular, unfortunately, I didn't get on film. Look at this lovely engine. This will become this is now a treasured part of my collection. Like I say, it's not. I mean, my original sort of period for the Great Western Railway was the Western region of British Rail from 1948 onwards. So obviously a locomotive built in 1950, that was last sort of run in 1915, wouldn't fit that era, but excuse me. I've decided to widen the scope of my locomotive, so I'm getting anything that's Great Western now. Anything Great Western, so it can either be in a Great Western Railway or the British Rail livery. Now I'm getting it all. Okay, so anyway, thank you very much for watching. And what we're going to do is, before we say goodbye, I'm going to move this railing lamp out of the way just for effect. We're going to stop at the signals there. Well, just by the signal. I mean, the driver can still see the signal from there. So now what we'll do is we'll bring her in. Now, this is something which impressed me about the particular locomotives. What they did on these particular ones, now obviously this is run by electricity, and obviously it needs to pick up current from the track to keep it going around the track smoothly. Now, what they did to this particular one was that they added additional pickups. So there's actually the current is going through the front bogie wheels, the front wheels, as well as the rear wheels and the driving wheels. So there's extra current going into it, and that makes it easier to go over points. And you'll see now as it pulls away rather elegantly. Straight over the points, no problem whatsoever. And I was putting this in a very, very controllable speed. Look at that. The height of Victorian elegance. Lorna Doone. Well, thank you very much for watching. I hope you find this video interesting. And I always say, when you watch my videos, try to stick with them to the end. I know they go on for a little bit sometimes. And if you like what you see, obviously click like, subscribe to my channel if you wish to see more of these videos. I will be buying more locomotives. There will be more coming. I'm at the moment looking at the period stock sort of carriages to go with this particular locomotive, because obviously this is a later rolling stock. It's Great Western, it's in the right livery and everything else, but I want some of they're called clerestory coaches, I think, which I'm looking out for at the moment. I've got my eye on them, and they will probably be on my layout quite shortly, should I get them at the right price. Okay, so, well, thank you very much for watching, and good night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.